Peace, everyone. How you doing? Today's show title is Tupac Murder Trial. DA open remarks asks judge to hold alleged killer Duane Davis accountable. Or Devon, however you say that, I don't know. I'm kind of out the loop. Like I said, I haven't had the internet for a sec. But we finna listen.
And that caravan included Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. And in that white Cadillac, before the shooting occurs, Duane Davis explains that the driver is Terrence T. Brown. In the rear driver's side is DeAndre Dre or Big Dre Smith. In the rear passenger side is Orlando Baby Lane Anderson. And Duane Davis himself, Keefe D, is in the front passenger side. And this is how Duane Davis explains the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Yeah. He's a little bit short right here. Then we came up Harlem at the Long Way Boulevard. And shit. Here they come that BMW on J. Corner. And brawls, Tupac. I'm like, there you go. Here the U-turn. We wasn't supposed to make it. Just swung the U-turn. It was in a little lane. We just pulled up on the side, checked every car to see where they was.
So what directed your attention to was some girl shouting at Tupac?
Tupac! He gave his son away. Otherwise, they would have gone away. He always got what you want to do.
He did a U-turn, so then you pull alongside of it. You got to turn the car. Have you already handed the gun at this point, or at what point do you hand him the gun?
I thought he was going to pull on my side. No, that's one of them going to the out, man. You know, he pulled on his side.
So you were fitting a blast if you had to, or you were just...
Yeah, we would have been on my side, I was there.
Okay. So you hand the gun to the back seat.
Yeah.
You hear my name?
Yeah, Dre was like, no. And Lane's like, dude, fuck.
So what you hear Duane Davis admit that as they see Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight driving to Club 662, Duane Davis, along with Terrence Brown, DeAndre Smith, and Orlando Anderson, decide to make a U-turn, confront Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight. Duane Davis has the firearm. It's a firearm he got from Eric Von Zit Martin, and then he passes it to the back. Duane Davis says that if they were on his side, if Tupac Shakur and Suge Knight were on his side of the vehicle, he would have shot them himself. But because they were on the other side, he handed it to DeAndre Smith. DeAndre Smith, according to Duane Davis, did not want to shoot at that time, so Orlando Anderson shot into that car. Duane Davis explains this over and over again.
Literally, on the street.
Okay, Lane starts blasting. You say Suge looks over, he sees you. He looks right at you.
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
I just know he does something to say, you know.
When he looks over at you, and then, Tupac's busy getting shot. Evidently, the story is Tupac's trying to either get out
In the
of
back seat or something.
Yeah, what do you see happening inside that car?
I see the bullet going through. Yeah, I thought he was dead. You see, he must have scraped it or something in the head or something.
A piece of glass went into his neck right here.
Yeah, the thing in the head.
A little great.
I thought he was dead.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, did you guys stop the two girls? Did both stop the car and let them get off?
Yeah. And we made the right.
Okay, but he stopped what you said, why you cool, let off.
Yeah. We made the right and some ball Seabury in the phone. Stupid bitches. We shot their window out and they stopped.
So Tupac's trying to jump in the back seat. And what should we? Nothing.
He couldn't really look because he was too big, you know. Yeah.
One other thing Duane Davis talks about during the murder of Tupac Shakur is that there's a car full of women. I think he calls them broads at one point. A car full of women who are there as well. And you're going to hear from one of them. And what she's going to tell you is that she disagrees slightly with Mr. Davis's rendition of facts. They were, in fact, communicating with Suge at Tupac's car, but they weren't talking to Tupac, they were talking to Suge. And what she says is she hears gunshots, she sees the white Cadillac flee, and then what Duane Davis interprets as them chasing her, she'll tell you is them just panicking and trying to get away. But she will say they inadvertently follow Duane Davis and the other people in the white car as they are fleeing. After Suge Knight and Tupac Shakur's vehicle is shot, Suge Knight makes a U-turn and heads back to the Las Vegas Strip. The car ultimately can go no further and stops. Police arrive, medical arrive, and you will hear that Suge Knight was grazed in the head and had some glass going in his neck. He ultimately survives those injuries and is released fairly quickly. You'll also hear that Tupac Shakur was shot multiple times, that he was brought to UMC, and that 6 days later, he succumbed to those injuries. And within 24 hours, the Cadillac and the assailants are back in Compton. They stay the night, and they drive right home as though nothing happened. But a war followed them back to Compton. Because while people were afraid to come forward to police, the police knew and the streets knew that Southside Compton Crips were responsible for this murder. And the war that follows at Compton is a bloody one. You'll hear that Mob Piru and Southside Crip members start shooting at each other. Within 10 days, 3 people are killed. A number of people are shot, including an 11-year-old girl. And what you'll also learn is that none of those cases were prosecuted. Why? Because in this context, in the gang context of this, the combination of gangs and guns is scary. And in this world, silence means survival. The one person who has a hard time being silent is Duane Davis. You're going to hear from 1998 to 2023, Duane Davis has given a number of statements regarding this case. So, as early as 1998, Davis spoke to the FBI. He admitted he was in Las Vegas during Tupac's murder, but he denies being responsible. Then in 1999, Davis speaks to the FBI again. And these aren't interviews that are focused on the Tupac Shakur murder. These are interviews regarding drug transactions and drug trafficking. But he does say that Tupac does come up, and Duane Davis admits to being in Las Vegas for Tupac Shakur's murder. Says he wasn't involved, but he was mad about the fact that Orlando Anderson was beaten, and that his plan was to handle it in Compton had Tupac survived.
Now, this is where the term proper comes in, because he had a proper agreement. We'll deal with that in later episodes and stuff.
Then in 2008, the interview of clips we've heard today, in a secret interview with the federal task force, Davis admits to his role in the murder of Tupac Shakur. And we do need to talk a little bit about this 2008 federal task force. Because what this task force is investigating is not the murder of Tupac Shakur. What this task force is investigating is another rapper's murder. A rapper by the name of Christopher Wallace. Somebody who is known as Biggie Smalls, so the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace got murdered 6 months after Tupac Shakur was killed. And there was some allegation that the LAPD might have been involved. So a federal task force was formed to determine what happened to Christopher Wallace. And the interesting thing about the murder of Christopher Wallace is that Christopher Wallace is killed leaving a party in LA. Also at that party, Duane Davis. Christopher Wallace there's a suspect vehicle that involved a Chevy SS Impala, and Duane Davis happened to own a Chevy SS Impala. Now, as a result of that, the task force decides, well, let's look at Duane Davis. And the thing we know about Duane Davis is that he trafficked narcotics. And so they were able, through a CI and an undercover, to have a drug transaction with Duane Davis. And as a result, Duane Davis now has a case, a big trafficking case. And so the federal task force approaches Duane Davis and his attorney, and they say, hey, look, we want information regarding the murder of Christopher Wallace. That is what we are trying to investigate. And what Duane Davis says is, I don't have any information about that, but I can tell you about what we did. I can tell you about Tupac. And that's what he does. He tells a federal task force that's about his involvement, what you've heard, his orchestration of the murder of Tupac Shakur. That secret conversation, that proffer, was secretly recorded and released later. In 2009, Davis is being so helpful to federal authorities that he actually flies out to New York to try and get Zip Martin to implicate himself in the Tupac Shakur murder. Zip Martin at that time was dying of cancer, was out of the game, and really did not engage with Duane Davis. In 2009, though, Duane Davis gives an interview to Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department Detective Dan Long. Now, Duane Davis is more guarded in that interview. It is a different setting than the interview of 2008. It's not a secret proffer agreement. But Duane Davis does admit a number of things. That he was in Las Vegas, that he was mad about Orlando Anderson getting beat, that he was the boss, that he was in the white Cadillac, and that he procured the firearm that ultimately killed Tupac Shakur. Then, in 2011, the landscape changes. Because in 2011, Greg Kading, the guy who was leading the task force in 2008, the guy who organized the secret proffer between Duane Davis and the federal task force, he leaves law enforcement and decides he's going to publish a book about his investigation into Biggie Smalls, the guy who was killed 6 months after Tupac, and Tupac Shakur. And what he puts in the book is that Duane Davis confessed to the murder of Tupac Shakur. The book tells the story about Davis' admission, about himself, but it also tells the story of Duane Davis telling about his nephew's involvement in the murder, about Big Dre's involvement in the murder, about Terrence Brown's involvement in the murder. And this is a problem for Duane Davis, because that meeting was supposed to be secret. And now his cooperation with federal authorities is open to the world. Not only that, Greg Kading is now profiting off Duane Davis's life story.
See, he messed up. He kept talking about it. He got too many accounts of speaking on the thing. See, criminals like to return to the crime and tell you what they did and tell you about the stuff they did. Now, some criminals like to be quiet, like in my criminal situation and stuff. The criminals are being quiet, but their actions on flagging my channel, chasing me down, still joined to people that's chasing me down and stuff, it's all criminal activity. That's why the RICO is still going on. But anyway.
So, in 2017, Duane Davis decides to go public. He's approached by the producers of a show called Death Row Chronicles that appears on BET. And this is just a small portion of what he says is his motivation for appearing.
When I went in Keefe D days, I was opted kingpin drug dealer. I'm the only one alive that really can tell you the story about the Tupac Shakur. People have been pursuing me for 20 years. Newspapers, magazines. I'm coming out now to tell the story because I got cancer. I got nothing else to lose. All I care about now is the truth.
Duane Davis says, all I want to do now is tell the truth. And in the 2017 public interview, he's a little evasive, but he admits to being the boss. He admits to being in the white Cadillac. And he admits to be part of the murder of Tupac Shakur. And when he says he's the only person that can tell what happened, he's right. Because by 2017, Terrence Brown is deceased. DeAndre Smith is deceased. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson is deceased. Terrence Brown was murdered in an unrelated incident. Orlando Anderson was murdered in an unrelated incident. And DeAndre Smith died from. Remarkably, in 2019, Duane Davis then decides he's going to publish his own book. And with regards to the book, it is certainly a lot of self-aggrandizement. But again, the core remains. He was mad about Orlando Anderson about the beating of Orlando Anderson, his nephew. He was in Las Vegas. He got the gun. He was in the white Cadillac, and he handed the gun to the shooters. And what you'll notice is a constant thing that always goes through these statements is Duane Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur for putting hands on his nephew. In the book, he says, them jumping on my nephew gave us the ultimate green light to do something to their ass. Then Duane Davis decides that he's going to do public interviews regarding his role in the murder of Tupac Shakur.
So you ended up getting in the car with Baby Lane and them?
I got in the car with him, yeah. We ran into them, went to the light on Sunset and Flamingo, and dude, we acted like he was in a parade or something, that nigga, and that BMW hanging out the window, hey, it's Tupac, it's Tupac. And them bitches, shit, they was hollering for him. Yeah, they were that motherfucker. They came up on the side of him. No shit.
Davis's public admissions mirror his private life. He admits to being a leader of Southside Crips. He admits the significance of the fight over the death row chain at the Lakewood Mall. He admits to being in Las Vegas the night of the fight. He admits to being angry that Tupac stomped Orlando Anderson at the MGM. He admits that he was hunting down Tupac and Chuck, first going to 662. He admits that he got a Glock 40 from Eric Zip Martin for the purposes of hunting Tupac. He admits that he was in a white Cadillac with his gang members looking for Tupac. He admits to seeing Tupac in a black BMW and then changing directions, making that U-turn to confront Tupac and Chuck. He admits to putting the gun he obtained that night in the back seat of the vehicle so the shooters could shoot. And again, what remains, even as late as 2020, 2021, 22, is Duane Davis's visceral anger at Tupac Shakur.
He didn't just, my nephew never jumped on no fucking Tupac. Come on, man. Tupac was wrong with two little fucking shoes. I mean, don't you think he was wrong? Honestly.
I mean, yeah, I think he could have, reacted in a better way.
You, listen, you don't think that man is wrong?
He could have reacted in a better way, I guess.
I'm talking, Vlad is the fucking biggest fan. He admitted that man is wrong, man.
I mean, yeah, man, he's wrong, man, but that was all he done out of loyalty, man.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. He never jumped, my nephew didn't jump on him. He jumped on my nephew. A kid, man.
My nephew was a fucking kid. He was grown ass man, dude. You know what I'm saying? He was a fucking kid, dude. That's why he had on the channel. He's a fucking kid, dude. You know what I'm saying? They was wrong. My nephew never jumped on man. They jumped on my nephew. My nephew didn't throw a punch, man. Shit was wrong, dude. Jumped on the fucking kid, dude.
And this anger is not just demonstrated publicly, but you will hear as recently as 2024, privately, in a conversation with his son, he talks about his feelings about Tupac Shakur, nearly 30 years after the murder.
What I do is I'll wait out there before him, dude. I know he's Dr. Dre and put him on, motherfucker. Oh, we just a little cracky. You know what I'm saying? Fucking prison. Get fucking ass. All the random little girls, jumping on little kids, always fuck the casino. That dude's a piece of shit. Yo?
Everything like this shit, very little, but yeah.
Straight.
29 hours.
I'm on that wrong. None of my kids on that.
28 years later, that is the visceral anger that Duane Davis had for Tupac Shakur. It did it in 2.5 hours. He took care of what he thought was the proper response. And 28 years later, he still is angry about what Tupac did. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac Shakur publicly, on camera, participated in the humiliating beating of Duane Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. Duane Davis knew that in his world, that required a response. And over the years, in private interviews, and public statements, and even in private calls, Duane Davis has repeatedly told us over and over again about the anger he felt and his own role in the revenge drive-by shooting of Tupac Shakur. And now, nearly 30 years later, we're going to ask you to finally hold Duane Davis accountable.
That's it, people. That's it. Appreciate you participating tonight, listening in. We will have more audio. We will have more commentary, more statements. Remember, that's day one. That's the defense attorney asking them to hold Duane Davis, Keefe D, responsible for the death of Tupac Shakur. So we will be going in more, listening more. See y'all later on. Leave your comments on the video. Peace.